are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And you know what, we're just gonna hop into things. I figured we'd start a little light. So Facebook, changed their name to Meta. So people had a lot to say about that. So this is your chance to say something back, okay? So we're gonna do a meme review.
All right.
So you're gonna rate these memes on spiciness level from 1 to 10, okay? So here's the first meme.
I mean,
how do you feel about the feta meme?
I'm pretty good. I'm not particularly spicy, but I don't know. Maybe I'll give it an 8.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty good.
That's good. I actually haven't seen this one before. Yeah, no, I think that's got to be pretty high up there too. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe 7.
7. Okay. This is my favorite.
Yeah, no, I think that one was awesome. That cracked me up too. That I think that's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Peak spiciness. This is pretty. This is for the millennials and boomers, I think.
I don't know. I'll give it a 5.
A 5. Okay. All right, 2 more.
There you go.
How do you feel about this? Is this how you feel when you do interviews?
I mean, we basically had to put together a video that was an hour long to explain the concept. So that's sort of how I feel about it. We can give that one 6, 7. 6, 7.
Yeah. Okay, and we're going to probably one of my most favorite. Oh wait, there's 2 more. Okay, these are great. And you seem to understand the memes too. I like the Easter eggs in the keynote.
You gotta lean into it. Yeah, no, I think I enjoyed this scene in the keynote because we were able to include both sunscreen and the American flag within 3 seconds of each other. So yeah, no, I think this one was pretty good.
I loved it. And then my 10 out of 10, the last one.
Yeah, no,
Wendy's
this was the
is
best
so
by far. Wendy's, I think, won with this one.
Yeah. Oh, so good. 10 out of 10 Wendy's. Okay, so we covered the memes, which is probably not the most important, but thank you for doing that.
I mean, it's hard to imagine anything more important.
Exactly. So let's just hop into it. I have a ton of specific questions, but I figured we would start kind of just letting people know what's going on right now. We have Oculus Quest 2, we have Ray-Ban Stories, we have some mixed reality projects in the pipeline, and I think people are wondering, like, how far off is this future when VR goggles are maybe as lightweight as glasses?
Yeah, so I kind of think we're in this phase now of building up some of this foundational technology to even get to the starting line on some of this stuff. And then, once it's available, it'll of course be another 5 or so years before it's completely ubiquitous. So my hope is that when you think about, in virtual reality, I think we're on our way, right? Quest has been a hit. Quest 2 is selling multiple times more than Quest 1. So that's great. And we're seeing, a bunch of awesome use cases. Of course, it started with games, but now a lot of what people spend their time on is just socially hanging out. But we're also seeing productivity apps. We're seeing this big rise in fitness apps. So people doing stuff like boxing or dancing with specifically working out. That's pretty cool. So VR, I think, is well on its way, and I think is more kind of going up the adoption curve at this point. Augmented reality requires normal-looking glasses, right? Because you're just not going to walk around with augmented reality glasses throughout the day unless they're pretty close to looking like normal glasses. I mean, they could be thick-rimmed glasses, right? I don't think we're quite a bit further off from being able to cram all that tech into kind of wireframe glasses. But I think we're probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't like giving an exact date, but I would be disappointed if within 5 years we weren't at least kind of at the starting line of having the tech out there and having this be possible, and then kind of starting the adoption curve there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Beat Saber, huge hit on Oculus, and obviously a huge part of the future and the metaverse is gaming, right? What do you see the game, the use case, the maybe work use case being for, like, my parents wearing VR goggles every day? Because it's like, I'm a techie, I love it, but I think of them as like, okay, they're in their 50s and they're tech savvy. What do you see? Do you see that adoption happening with a specific app, or do you see it more with the advancement of the hardware?
Yeah, so what we're seeing right now is that with each iteration of the hardware, and then every 6 months or so, there's a new software experience that comes out. You're just adding use cases. So earlier on, it was primarily about gamers, right? People who just really cared about gaming, and that I think remains one of the best use cases. Now I think we're seeing, I just mentioned fitness. one of the things that we're seeing is, people kind of use it like their Peloton, except instead of instead of Peloton being, a bike or a treadmill, you have your $300 Quest 2 and you put it on, and in it you can take boxing classes or do cardio in Supernatural, and people love it. It's just that use case is growing really quickly, and it's a different set of people than maybe the ones who are doing gaming. But what you're kind of seeing over time is you're just adding use case after use case. Meetings where you can actually feel like you're there in person for collaboration. I think that's going to be a big use case. We're seeing training. Right, so that's maybe a little more specific, but a bunch of companies are kind of buying VR headsets and training people to do the work they need to do. We're seeing like doctors get trained on surgeries. There was a big kind of research test that was done that showed that doctors who were trained on a specific kind of surgery in VR performed better doing it than ones who just learned about it in being lectured in class. Kind of makes sense, right? Being able to feel something makes you better at it. So you have that. The other way to look at this is that I do think by the end of this decade, and hopefully a bit sooner, I just think we're going to have VR devices that are basically better than PCs for everything that you want to do with them, right? So like, you sit down to go to work in the middle of the day, and there's all this stuff that you do on your computer. You have a big screen. Maybe you have multiple screens. You're multitasking, doing a bunch of different things. And I just think you're going to have this perfect setup in VR where you can have how many ever screens you want, and you're going to be able to take that with you, right? So you want to, you go to Starbucks or wherever it is that you're hanging out in the day, and you just kind of like sit down and pull up your workstation, and you're there, and you can do that wherever you want, and whether you're going between your office or home. So I kind of think that's going to be an interesting critical point where you get to the point where there are basically no advantages anymore to using a laptop compared to a VR device. And I don't know if that's going to be 2028 or 2027 or 2030, but it's coming soon. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. It seems like, you guys have already done a ton of investing, but there's obviously a roadmap. When was Metaverse an idea in your head? When did you think was it when you were starting Facebook? Did you have Meta in mind, the Metaverse in mind? Was it, the introduction of cryptocurrency or Web3? When was that first light that went off and you were like, hey, the Metaverse is the future, and this is what I want to be building in?
Yeah, so I didn't invent the idea, right? It's been something that people have talked about for a very long time, and it's been something that I've been excited about since I was a kid, really. I just have these memories of being in middle school and writing in my notebook in math class stuff that I wanted to go code when I got home from school that day, and a bunch of the experiences were, it's not just 2D stuff on a screen. It's you want to really feel like you can teleport to different experiences and be there with your friends. And I think at some level it was always clear that this would be the ultimate dream of a digital social experience is to build it. So in a lot of ways, the question is just, when is it going to be possible? And, we started working at this at the company about 7 years ago when the Oculus team joined us. And we've just been working on this because I kind of, I've seen this trajectory in technology where we keep on getting more immersive and natural ways to express ourselves, right? So when I started Facebook in 2004, it was mostly text, right? Then we got phones with cameras, and it the internet became a lot more visual. Then over the last several years, people have generally gotten good internet connections. So now the main way that we express ourselves is video, but that's not the end of the line. I think we're going to end up having a more immersive experience. So the question is, what set of technologies do you need to build to enable that? And I think virtual reality is an important part of that. Augmented reality is an important part of that. And then there's all this other technology, like having realistic avatars and be able to have virtual goods that you can exchange with people and take between different experiences. And all this stuff just needs to get built, and it's a lot of work. So we've been working on the virtual reality side of this for 7 years. We've built 5 different VR headsets. I think starting with Quest, it started really clicking, and Quest 2 I think has been a real hit. But there is a lot more to do here, and my hope is that by around maybe the middle of this decade, all the foundational pieces will be in place, and then the second half of this decade I think will really be about just building all the experiences and taking it from something that maybe tens or 100 million people are doing to something that is as ubiquitous as our phones today, which I think is where we're going to go by the end of the decade would be my hope.
Definitely. Yeah, I have one technical question before maybe we can go back to high level. But when I work is my life, I'm a YouTuber, there's very little separation. So I'm excited for, not just meetings, but also, hey, I want like 6 different screens in front of me in virtual reality, right?
You will get that.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. But it seems like the thing that needs to improve right now is solving for resolution. And we're hearing, some things about like eye tracking and all of that stuff. And it is, off into the future. But can you speak to maybe some ways that the resolution can get better in these VR headsets?
Totally. So, every device we ship has better resolution, but and I'll talk about how we can keep on working down the curve there. But it's actually, there's even more than resolution, because even if you could get to a Retina display today, which I think will be possible in the not too distant future. One of the limits in VR headsets today is you can only kind of focus on one distance at a time, which of course, when we go through the world, we read text that's close to us and then we look at something far away. So having a VR or an AR device where the lens can morph and move to allow you to focus on different lengths, we call that varifocal. That's going to be a really important thing. Another important part of display is basically the vividness, right? It's like how kind of high def is something. And so you can get to a place where, okay, maybe it's sharp, maybe the resolution is high, but you go outside and you see like the green of the leaves on like a really nice sunny day, and just there's a certain brilliance of that our physical screens or our digital screens can't quite approximate yet. So I think we need to be able to get that too. So there are all these different things that we need to go do. But then you have this problem, which is like, all right, well, you want to basically get all this into augmented reality glasses that kind of look like normal glasses. So maybe they're about 5 millimeters thick. So you need to have a projector in it and basically a display where you can have this these images. And one of the ways that humans have evolved basically to be able to do this is we don't have a uniform resolution across our whole field of view, right? It's like when I'm looking at you, you're really sharp, but everything around the sides is a little more blurry, and that's sort of a biological hack that we've developed to be able to focus on what matters, but not have our brains have to take in all this additional information. And I think the same has to happen in these visual systems. So, one of the possible technologies that people talk about, it's called foveated rendering, which is basically rendering more precisely and in higher resolution the part that you're looking at in the screen, and having everything else just sort of be in your peripheral vision. But of course, as you were sort of alluding to, in order to be able to render what you're looking at carefully, we need to know what you're looking at. So then you need to be very good at eye tracking. So then you need sensors that are on the inside of the camera of the device pointing at your eyes. So this is the kind of technology paths of all this are really deep and really interesting. This is like some of the most exciting stuff that I've ever gotten to be involved with and get to work on. So, in a lot of ways, it feels like early days at the company where, you can kind of see where things are going to go over the next 10 years. But, and it's just like, that every year there's just going to be awesome new things that get delivered. Yeah. So I don't know, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask you about, because I found it fascinating that that institutions, the big people who are focusing on Bitcoin, Web3, VR, AR, they seem to be founder-led tech companies, right? And so I imagine that you guys are feeling the same kind of excitement that you had in the early days. Social media will always be around, but this so clearly seems like the next frontier.
Yeah, that's certainly how it feels to me. And that was a big part of the reason why we wanted to change the brand of the company to Meta, right? To encompass the full vision of what we're doing, is because, today a lot of people see us as a social media company, and building those social apps is always going to be an important part of what we do. But I really do think that, if you were starting something today, I think the Metaverse is the next frontier in social connection, kind of like social networking was when I got started in 2004. So, in order to help deliver the Metaverse, we kind of need to work on both sides, the social experiences and the future platforms. So it's not like, the future work we're doing is meta. The whole thing is meta, right? In terms of both the social media and apps part of what we do and the future platforms. But yeah, no, it's definitely sort of an up leveling in how we see ourselves and just kind of having a new North Star to shoot for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like this is the big question. So like with the rise of Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs, DeFi, DAOs, there's this like obvious tension, right, in between centralized companies and decentralized organizations. So I personally think that Web 2 and 3 can coexist. I know that's probably not the most, Web 3 people are very excited, as they should be. But there's a lot of people that think Web 3 is the answer for everything, which is fine, guys, that's fine. But where does Meta sit in between that? How is the Meta's Metaverse going to coexist and interact with other universes, other games, for example, like Roblox, Axie Infinity? These are huge worlds that already exist. So how do you see, these things just coexisting?
Yeah, so I'm very optimistic about kind of crypto and Web3 and that whole general direction. I think it's still quite early compared to what it's going to be and its full potential. So I think that there's a lot more to do there, but you can certainly see a lot of these awesome use cases are already starting to get developed, and it's I think it's really exciting to see. The way that I think about the metaverse, I don't think every company is building their own metaverse. I think it's sort of like the internet, right? You wouldn't say that Google is building its own internet, right? That we were building our own internet before. You'd kind of say, okay, well, we're building experiences or infrastructure for the internet. And that's kind of how I think about the metaverse too. It's not that each company is going to have its own metaverse. It's that we're trying to help build and accelerate some of the fundamental technology and platforms, whether that's social platforms or creator tools or commerce tools for the metaverse. And these things have to kind of plug into and kind of be part of a broader ecosystem of other people building this stuff too. It's I think part of what hopefully will define the metaverse is a much greater sense of interoperability and portability, where you have your avatar and your identity and how you're expressing yourself, and you have your virtual goods, whether they're NFTs or structured on some other architecture, and you want to be able to take that between different experiences. So compared to mobile, where the atomic unit on a phone is really an app, and each app is so siloed, right, that it's quite hard to kind of break down the barriers or bring stuff from one app to another. I think that the metaverse promises to be much more interoperable, where you kind of have your identity and expression and your avatar and your stuff, and you kind of, I think, will expect that you can bring that in between different experiences. A big part of that, I think, is going to be having a lot of the virtual goods and a lot of your stuff be stored and in a decentralized way, right? So that way it's not just kind of locked up in one system. But I think the reality is that there are going to be lots of different solutions. I think it's not exactly clear, which architecture is going to win yet. So from our perspective, we just want to make sure that we can support a lot of them, and certainly with an open-mindedness to where we think the future is going. But I don't think that there's like a single idea yet that's clearly going to be how everything is stored in the future. My guess is there will continue to be a plurality of different solutions, and that I think will help create a greater diversity of different experiences and an economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like no matter what people think about NFTs, there's a lot of opinions out there. It's for sure, I feel like, changed the game for artists and creators. It's like those people are now at the forefront of these conversations of literally building these future platforms and new worlds, which, as a creator, I think is amazing. I wish I spent some more time in Photoshop personally, because I'm kind of jealous of people's skills in this medium. But in your keynote, there's a huge emphasis on developers and creators, and as well as creating this as an open ecosystem. So you kind of touched on it there about virtual goods, but can you share a little bit more in more detail what that's going to look like for creators building in the multiverse? What are they going to be building, just beyond goods? Like, what are their worlds going to look like? And what even is that? And also mention this $150 million immersive learning education program, which I think will help with getting people started, right?
Yeah, well, I think that there's a whole lot of training that needs to happen, and we want to hopefully do this in a way that broadens opportunity and helps more people be creators than could before. But To answer your main question, it's I think that there are lots of different types of things that need to get created, from kind of whole apps and experiences and games to worlds within apps to digital clothing to digital tools. There will be, some of the games or experiences that you have will be kind of whole apps. So you mentioned Beat Saber before, so that's kind of a whole environment where it's sort of self-contained. But then you'll have people building, a ping pong table that you can put in the corner of your room, or a chessboard where you can interact with it across virtual and augmented reality. And one of the thought experiments that I like doing is thinking about how many of the physical items that we have today will actually just be able to be digital goods or holograms in the future when we're spending a lot more time in the metaverse or with AR glasses. So all of these things need to be created. And I kind of think if you think about what the economy is going to look like in the future, I don't think that most of the stuff is going to be created by a small number of big companies. I think that the role of the big companies, or the companies that are successful here, is largely going to be building platforms, so that way you can enable millions of creators around the world to basically make a living creating this stuff and having people use it in all these different contexts. And part of what I'm excited about here is that I think the interoperability is important, because if one of the analogies that we use sometimes is, it's like, sometimes it feels like you buy a jersey at a basketball game, and you're only allowed to use that jersey within the arena for that basketball team, right? Is like, that's sort of how the digital world works today. And if that's the case, then people aren't going to want to buy as much stuff, which means that if there's not as much commerce, creators aren't going to be as incentivized to build the stuff. So I think making it so that you can kind of take the clothing that you have or the tools and bring it to all these experiences will make it a lot more valuable, and we'll just make it so it's worth it for more creators to build it. The other thing that I'm really excited about is just bringing the fees down and costs for developers, right? I think when you think about the mobile platforms today, you have the 30% app store fees and all that. And it's just a different approach to, the way that we've historically tried to build stuff. I mean, we want to maximize the GDP of the metaverse, right? If you think about the approach that we've taken to social media, the apps are free, but our ad system is an auction, which basically means that every advertiser gets the lowest price that we can offer them to clear the auction. When we build commerce and creator tools, we basically either offer them with no fees or at cost. Oftentimes we're fighting with the mobile platforms to make sure that more of the revenue that people are paying can go to journalists or creators or different folks. And look, I mean, that's kind of the approach that we want to take to helping to build the metaverse, right? Unlike, companies that may, make a device and try to sell it for as much as possible, then we make the devices and we either subsidize them or offer them at cost. We don't make it so that you have to list your apps in the Quest store. You can sideload, you can stream it from your PC. We have App Labs, so there's just different ways for you to distribute content. And we're generally we're gonna be committed to keeping commerce fees as low as possible in as many cases as we can, because we think that just enables the most creation, and at the end of the day, that's I think the path to increasing the GDP in the metaverse. And I kind of think if we do that, then at some point down the line, we'll find a way to build a good business from this too, through the commerce tools and advertising and all that. But I don't know, just making it so that the creative economy can be as big as possible, I think, is a huge part of bringing this to life here.
Yeah. I know we only have a couple more minutes, but speaking of, creators and all of that, and obviously what you guys do well is ads. Is rev share with ads going to be at the forefront with this? Because, I know those tools are going to be built in, for creators to go out and create, whether it's like, hey, let's do a live stream, let's sell merch, right? But I think a big part of this world will probably be ads. Are you thinking about putting a program in place, from the beginning to have some of that rev share from ads?
So, I mean, this is all speculative because, obviously none of the ad system
it's
exists. So the way that I kind of think about this is that commerce and ads are two sides of the same coin, right? Because if there isn't a lot of commerce happening, then no one wants to advertise for anything. But once people are buying things, then a creator or a business wants to get more customers, which is how the advertising part of this comes in. So for now, we're really much more focused on helping to build the creative economy and build out the tools to enable that and making the fees as low as possible. But I think once that's a big thing, there will naturally be an ad economy as part of that too, because all the people who are successful are going to want to reach more people. So then, yeah, I think as part of that, I mean, now I'm just really speculating about how the future is going to go.
Yeah. Sorry, we want the details.
Well, I mean, look,
yeah.
I think, similar to the web and apps, I would imagine that someone, and maybe it's us who builds this, or maybe it's someone else, will build systems so that if you're a creator and you build an app and you want to have a virtual billboard or a portal in your experience that can be paid, where that's basically what an ad is going to be in the metaverse.
Right.
That you can put that in, and I'm sure there will be technology partners that you can work with to basically have that there, and then you'll get an ad rev share for that. But I think that's also different from experiences like where a company builds the experience and then sells their own apps, their own ads in it. So I think we'll have to see how this all evolves. But I guess in terms of sequencing, I'm much more focused on the kind of the creative economy part of this and helping that amount of commerce and really expression, right? I mean, a lot of the reason why people buy this stuff is there's an entertainment component, but if you're spending a lot of time in the metaverse, you'll care about your clothes and your how you express yourself there. That's kind of this intersection between social connection and commerce, and I think that's the first step, right? That's what we have to nail. And then after that, I think there will be an opportunity to build a lot more on top of that.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I know there's still a lot up in the air, but I appreciate you sharing that. And thank you so much for coming on the channel. And yeah.
Happy to.
Mark,
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Yeah.
All right. Catch you soon.
Bye, guys. Okay, listen, that was kind of crazy, right? I'm just like this normal tech YouTuber who, would never think that I could chat to people like the Zuck. So it was an honor. I appreciate so much that they would reach out to like a YouTube channel to talk about the metaverse. And I know people have a lot of opinions about this. They have a lot of questions, which yes, me too. So make sure to leave any comments, questions, concerns you have down in the comment section. I'm sure it's going to be the most respectful and amazing comment section ever. If you're new around here, hi, my name is Sara Dietschy, or rhymes with Peachy. I make tech and creativity videos, and sometimes I just share about my life here in Texas. Born and raised in Texas, was in New York for 5 years, just recently moved back to my hometown. So things were fun. We finally got the peach hung up for the Peachy fam who know what a journey this has been. But anyways, let me know if you like this video. Hit that subscribe button down below for new videos every single week. And well, until next time, stay peachy. Whew. Okay.